Israel's Prime Minister has criticized France's plan for an international peace conference aimed at recognizing the state of Palestine if talks fail. Benjamin Netanyahu described the conference as counterproductive, saying it's doomed to fail. Netanyahu argued that talks will give Palestinians no incentive to compromise. Netanyahu stressed that peace will only be achieved if both sides engage in direct talks. Palestinians have earlier welcomed the initiative, hoping that it will put an end to the Israeli violence and occupation of their territories. The so-called peace talks between Palestine and Israel collapsed in April 2014 amid continued settlement expansions in the occupied Palestinian territories, and the situation has deteriorated since then. We're going to cross over to Lima now and speak to Max Igan. He's a radio host and political commentator, and he joins us via Skype. Many thanks for joining us here on PressTV, Mr. Igan. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister is very opposed to this plan on the part of France. However, recognition of the Palestinian state, will it basically erode the so-called peace process, or will it put more pressure on Israel?
Well, it would put more pressure on Israel, of course. I mean, and Benjamin Netanyahu is, of course, going to say that talks are counterproductive because Israel has no interest in peace. And he always jumps in and says it will give the Palestinians no incentive for compromise, when really all the Palestinians have ever done is compromise. At the moment, life in Palestine is a compromise between death and Israeli occupation. So really, it's the Israelis who need to start making compromises. This is just a typical stance of Benjamin Netanyahu, that the Israelis are not interested in peace. Even when they have these peace talks, they're constantly bulldozing Palestinian homes and shooting Palestinians all the time. They just do not want peace. So, of course, he's going to do anything he can to derail any peace process.
Right, but Mr. Igan, if Palestine is recognized as a state by France, it is obviously a defeat for Israel on the diplomatic front. But how does that translate on the ground there, on the occupied territories?
Well, it won't translate to anything without international pressure. That's the thing. I mean, if the Israeli state is recognised, it may provide Israel with the incentive to back down a little. But what would the Palestinian state be under the conditions that exist there now? I mean, it really needs to return to the 1967 borders, if not return to the 1948 borders, if not return to what it was before Israel even got involved. I mean, it must be remembered by everybody that this used to be a peaceful region. There was never any war in the region at all until Israel got involved. I mean, it may cause Israel to have to step up a little bit and behave itself in the eyes of the international world, but I really don't think it will. Israel doesn't care what anybody thinks. It's already committed so many war crimes now, so many breaches of UN directives now. I mean, if the UN had any teeth at all, it would have reined the Netanyahu government in long ago. And even with France, I mean, they can say this and they can want to hold peace talks, but if they're willing to go and bomb Syria, why won't they send troops down to patrol the borders to keep the Palestinians safe? Nobody seems to do this. They all talk about it, but nobody ever sends peacekeepers down there. And the Palestinians have been wanting recognition and wanting peace for a very long time, and they're just not getting it. And Netanyahu and his government will continue to do everything they can to undermine the peace process. And even if they've been given UN directives to make sure it happens, it's doubtful that they will compromise at all or even adhere or obey any UN directives.
Okay, that's radio host and political commentator Max Igan joining us via Skype from Lima. Mr. Igan, thank you very much indeed for your comments here on Press TV.